All right, everyone, we are just about ready to begin, and it's my pleasure to welcome all 17 of you to today's session. As a reminder, we have placed the handout in the chat function. Our moderators are standing by to answer any questions that you have. So we just have 1 minute to get started here. We'll stop that video preview. We hope you enjoyed it and found a couple of funny things in there. We're here to share with you our expertise in the tips and tricks for using Pinterest and Twitter with your blog. So welcome. Let's begin our journey. Are we ready? Thumbs up if you're ready. All right. So welcome again. Tips and tricks for using Pinterest and Twitter with your blog. We wanted to get started today with a quick little activity poll. As a reminder, if you're not used to using Zoom as a web conferencing tool, in your handout on page 1, section 2, there's step-by-step instructions to participate. We will be using chat function, raise your hand function, and breakout sessions to get you excited about tweeting on Twitter and using pinning in Pinterest, and of course, a successful blog. So if you would take a moment to click on that participants button down on the bottom of your Zoom meeting, that will bring up the participants window and you'll see a raise your hand. So if you'll take a moment right now to raise your hand if you currently have a blog. Awesome. It looks like we have quite a few people with blogging experience. Excellent. If you'll keep that hand up, if you've ever used Pinterest. Looks like all our bloggers out there are also pinners. And for those of you who are tweeters, if you've used Twitter in the past, go ahead and keep those hands up. All right, excellent. Looks like almost everybody has had some experience with Twitter and Pinterest and blogging. What we're here to talk to you today about is how to bring all three of those social media pieces together using tips and tricks and best practices from our SMEs so that you can drive more traffic to your blog. All right, we'd also like you to practice with the chat function before we go ahead and have those in our breakout sessions. So if you will, use the chat function to type a reaction to the image that you see. Would you eat that cookie? Does it look yummy? Have you had this Pinterest failure? Did they nail it? I agree. Gross, blah. Ryan would still eat it, just for the record. Justin says he would eat them all. Haley, good point. It's a cookie. I'd still eat it. And Louisa says, no way. This is my Pinterest failure. This has happened to me as well. I have certainly not nailed it. If you take a peek to the right, this is an example of a Twitter from US Airways. So can you think of why they may have tweeted this apology? What could have happened? Let's see your reaction in the chat. This is just a reminder to all of you that tweeting without the best practices could cause a failure. So Emily will be sharing with you her best practices and her tips and tricks. And as a reminder, again, our handout has a lot of tips and tricks in it, as well as additional resources. So we'll be referring to that throughout the session. If you didn't get a chance to see that in the chat, go ahead and use the chat at any time. Our moderators are standing by and more than willing to answer your questions. All right, I'm going to go ahead and shut down that chat. And let's take a peek at some things. We are recording this session, so thank you for your attention. We ask that you mute your phones if you expect quite a bit of background noise, so please take a moment to do that. I think we've spoken enough and chatted enough about our handout, but it is there, and we spent a lot of time on it, so check it out. All right, we have a very exciting evaluation form and survey at the end of our session. We appreciate in advance your feedback, and exciting news, if you complete that evaluation form, we have provided you with an additional secret resource at the end of that evaluation. So please take some time to do that evaluation form. We will be providing that link into the chat function. It's also in your handout. Our moderators are standing by in our chat room during our entire presentation to answer any questions that you have. We will be opening up the mics from time to time to take your questions. So now that we've taken care of logistics, it's my pleasure to introduce to you today your SMEs. We have Miss Emily May. She likes to tweet about e-learning and photography. Emily, wave to everyone. We have Miss Tian Vetter. She's our blogging expert. Tian, say hello.
Hello.
And we have Kristen Vossler. She likes to pin pie recipes and anything about Yorkies, but she's also here to show you that Pinterest is just not about crafting and foodies. So Kristen, go ahead and say hi.
Hello. Hello.
I am Lisa Wright, and I am your MC for this evening, and I'm a social media dabbler, and I've learned a lot from these ladies, so it's my pleasure to share with you that we are going to be sharing expertise with our person, Jane. Perhaps you recognize her. She was in our video. Now, Jane is a social media dabbler. She knows a little bit about pinning, tweeting, and blogging, but she's a little confused about how to bring it all together and really drive home that traffic to her blog. That's what our SMEs are here to do. They're going to show Jane how to rock it. Tian's going to be your blogging expert, Kristen, your Pinterest expert, and Emily, your tweeting expert. I never say it right, so Tian is laughing. But I will have you all know that these ladies got me on Twitter. I'm up to 3 followers. Let's hear it. All right. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and turn it over to Tian. Tian, you have the mic.
Thanks, Lisa. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's see here. Okay. All right, thumbs up if you can see the presentation. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so I'm Tian. And in getting started with helping out Jane, here's a brief agenda of what I'm going to cover in the next 10 to 12 minutes. So this is Jane's first time creating a blog. So first I'll give a very brief overview on what blogging is and then why one should do it. Then we'll do a quick discussion activity in the chat window. I'll very briefly cover how to get started with a brand new blog and go over some best practices. And then we'll tour what has become a pretty popular blog, someone who started out from bare basics. And we'll do a tour, and then you guys will tour your own blog. That's going to be listed in our handout, and we'll talk about that when we get there. And speaking of the handout that we've mentioned a few times and is throughout our chat window, everything that we cover, and especially everything I cover in the next 10 minutes, there are several links and resources in that handout. So if you have any further questions or you want to know more about something, I have linked to pretty much everything that I'm going to cover. Okay, so let's see. So what is blogging and what does that mean? Originally combined from the words web and log, a blog is just that. It's the logging of one's ideas and thoughts and experiences, and it's all placed on the web. So it's an online space, if you will, that houses information put there by someone just like you and me. And it's usually a public forum that can be viewed by anyone with features that allow for really great discourse and discovery. So why blog, other than it being a requirement of a master's program? So the reasons for having a blog mostly surround the fact that we're incredibly social beings and we have a lot to say and a lot of strong opinions. So having a blog is a great medium for individuals to express themselves and to put their thoughts and their feelings out there in the world. And it makes sense that this is such a hugely popular thing to do right now because you can reach so many people with so little effort. Not little effort, but a little bit of effort. You can be a grandma living in like a really tiny town in Montana and still reach people all across the world. And then the best part is your blog can be about anything that you want it to be about. So anything you're passionate about, you'll find a blog out there that covers what you want to know about. So before we dive in, I wanted to use the Zoom group chat. So there's a question on the screen here. Is there a blog that you follow and read on a semi to regular basis? So if everyone could take a minute and go ahead and type the name of the blog that you like into chat. And if you can, one reason why you like it and why you read and follow that blog. So we'll go ahead and take about 30 seconds right now. And Lisa, if you want to call out some of those responses, that'd be great.
Sure. I personally follow Tian's blog because it rocks, and she rocks the design. We got BuzzFeed humor and not a whole lot of text.
Okay, that's okay.
I just discovered blogging as a part of the program, so we have some new people to blogging, Tian.
Well, hopefully you'll learn some things in this little segment.
We have CSS tricks. My favorite's to use Grammosaurus Rex.
Ooh, that sounds up my alley.
And Ryan follows his friend's travel blog.
I love travel blogs. There's a couple good ones in the handout that we'll look at.
And Haley recommends Mental Floss blog. Not sure.
Ooh, I haven't heard of that, but that sounds good for the brain. Or like a big time suck, one or the other, which a lot of blogs are in a good way.
All right, thank you all for your responses.
Okay, so moving on. Now that we all know what a blog is and understand why we do it, here are the first two decisions that one has to make upon creating a brand new blog. So the first one would be to choose a blog platform. So the platform is basically what you use to create your blog. On the screen here, you can see the top 8 blogging platforms, and WordPress is on there twice because there's wordpress.org and wordpress.com. And there's an explanation in the resources if you're wondering the difference. WordPress is by far the most popular, and most of these, pretty much all 8 of these, will offer free and paid options. So the second decision is to choose web hosting for your blog. So if the platform is what you build your blog, then the web hosting is basically like the online storage method. So it's what keeps your content online. And if you go with a free hosting, then your domain, which is your address in the address bar, the URL to your site, your domain would probably end in something like .wordpress.org or .blogspot.com. But if you choose a paid hosting, your domain name can be almost anything that you want it to be. And you can see I have some examples up here. I think most of us have probably heard of GoDaddy in some context. The next biggest ones are Bluehost and WebGator. And then domain examples will usually end in .com, .org, or .net. And if you're paying, like I said, if you pay for your domain or for your hosting, then you can choose whichever domain you want, if it's available. So I wanted to have this on the screen here just for, we're not going to go into it, but there is a link to this in the handout, a link directly to this graphic. I just thought this was a great graphic to point out for people who are getting started and they're thinking, oh my gosh, there's so many options. Like, how do I know what to look for, what to use? The site that is hosting this graphic it also has a lot of information. So make sure to check that out after the webinar. Okay, so getting started with best practices, there's 3 that we're going to go over. And the first one is, before everything else, your blog's got to rock. So this is ultimately the most important aspect of blogging. It won't matter what your blog looks like or how much effort you put into it if it's not of interest to anyone. So make sure you select a topic that's current and relevant, and especially one that you are passionate about. Because if you're not passionate about it, not why do it, but it's going to be all the more better the more passionate you are. And then you're going to want to be helpful with your content. And when I say be helpful, what I mean is mix things up. So be informative, but also tell stories, quote experts, respond quickly to trends going on in the world, and then know your target audience. So you want to make sure that you're very targeted and you know what your audience wants to see and read and learn about. The second one is visuals. A picture paints 1,000 words, and because we're all incredibly visual creatures. So a really big deal, invest in your blog's design. And we've been learning about cart principles, so there's a lot that can go into it, but really visuals are so important. Show your personality and get creative, and always add images to your post. So someone mentioned BuzzFeed and that there's pictures. Well, there's a reason why that's so popular, because visuals and pictures, they're incredibly entertaining, and everyone can find entertainment and value in images. If you can't find images, it's even better to create them yourself. And I put a link to GIMP in the handout. And I included that because Photoshop is one of the most popular image editing platforms out there. And GIMP does most everything that Photoshop does. It works a little bit different, but GIMP is free. So that's one that I highly recommend. Then once you have those images in your post, you want to use them to drive traffic to your blog, which is what Kristen and Emily are going to show us here in just a little bit. And they're going to show us how to do that with Pinterest and Twitter. So the third one is relationships, and relationships matter. So build an audience with people by using social media to network and engage. You want to create relationships by sharing with those who've already shared similar content and send your content to specific targets. You want to reach out to influencers. So more than anything, maximize the potential of social media. So I'm not going to lie, like to become popular and to be successful with this, it's going to take work, especially on the end of social media, which Lisa is learning with her brand new Twitter account. Okay, so really quick, I'm going to do a blog tour of this blog that you see on the screen. This is Basil's Travels. As soon as I go through this little tour, and I'm going to point out some of the more visual best practices, we're going to head over to the handout, and you guys are going to click. There's 8 blogs for you to choose from, so you'll head over there and you'll do a quick tour for yourself and then answer some questions in the chat. But real quick, if you guys just want to make sure you're looking at the screen, and let's look at Basil's Travels. So here's the blog, and there's the carousel at the top here, which is great. That's Libby. That's Basil's human. Libby is the owner and creator of this blog. So the first thing to note is she has a beautiful, clean design, and she has very cohesive colors. She has a logo that she designed, which is adorable. There's Basil. She has her links at the top here that sort of work as her table of contents to navigate throughout the site. And then very important is the social media icons at the top. So what we like to call this, what you see here on your screen, is what we like to refer to as above the fold. So think about in the old days, or for anyone who still reads a newspaper, the most important information was always above the fold and on that front page. So you want to make sure you have your links and your icons and all of your buttons above the fold. She also has her search bar here, and we're not covering Instagram in this webinar, but it's still a great social media tool, and she has a widget. And so what she's doing is all of her most recent, so her 4 most recent Instagram pictures will automatically populate onto her blog. So here's her post, and notice that she does have images throughout every one of her posts. She has multiple. This might be because I have a little widget on my Chrome browser for the pin it button, but Kristen will address that in her segment. As we move down, you can see she again has a follow on Instagram button. She has Basil's friends, so some other bloggers or companies that she's affiliated with, and that's great. They share you, you share them. It all helps to build your audience. And then down here, this one's very important. Follow Basil's Travels. You enter your email address. So this is a great feature to include on your blog because some people want to get your newest post right in their inbox as soon as it's posted. So when I keep going, when I was talking about earlier, like with seeking out other professionals in the community or other influencers, what Libby did was she became a member of the Blog Pause community. And by doing that, she really expanded her audience, and she really grew the audience of her blog, especially dog lovers and other people in the pet blogging world. So much so that in 2015, she was the Best Pet Blog Photo winner, and she was also in 2014 the Best New Pet Blog finalist. So these are just a couple of things. The last one that I'm going to cover on here is down here at the bottom of every one of her posts. She has social media sharing buttons. So this is to enable your readers and your visitors to kind of help you out. If they like something enough, they'll like it or they'll repost it, they'll tweet about it, send it out Google+, Pinterest, all that stuff. So now that we've looked at this, I want everyone to go to the handout. And hopefully that is in the chat window. The link should be there in chat. And I believe it's in, so blogging is section 3, and the links should be on page 4. So go ahead and select a blog, and we're going to just take about 30 seconds to look through that blog. And what you want to keep in mind are all of the best practices. I know that I was really quick, but hopefully a couple have stuck out to you. So while you're looking at the blog, just keep in mind some of the best practices I covered. And they're all very popular blogs, highly popular. So take 30 seconds, look through those, and then in the chat window, answer the question that you see on the presentation screen.
So Deanna, Aaron's noted that the Remoteaholic has a good above the fold
Oh, yeah.
function. And Kristen loves the title, I Am a Food Blog.
Yep, love that. Very, very open and honest about that one.
Anyone else? Just a reminder that Tiana is working off of the handout in section 3.3. It's actually page 3.
Oops, sorry.
She has some links to those common blogs.
And we'll take a little bit in case. I know they're very engrossing blogs.
Ink and Quills is being noted for a nice clean design, and My
yes.
Name is Ya has a lot of beautiful images.
Yep.
And also another compliment for the logo on Ink and Quills.
Mm-hmm. Visuals are incredibly important, and you might look at some of these and think, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could ever make something like that, but you'd be surprised with the free resources that are out there.
Stuck in Customs has wonderful photos.
Mm-hmm. That's a great travel one.
Remoteaholic is easy to navigate and easy to find social media links. And then Cheeseland with an exclamation point. Quite a lot of passion about Cheeseland happening in chat right now.
Okay. Good. Well, if anything, I hope everyone's found a couple new blogs they want to visit later on.
Let's go ahead and close that chat, and you're welcome to take a look at those blogs after the session. They are in the handout as resources.
Perfect. Okay, so that's all we've got for covering blogs for right now. So like Lisa said, refer back to the handout later on. And I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and hand it over to Kristen so she can show us how to use Pinterest with our blogs.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kristen. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. Can everybody see my screen?
Kristen, we see your screen as tiled, so if you want to bring up that PowerPoint.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Seem to have lost my buttons. Sorry about that. Alrighty. So there we go. Can everybody see it now? Okay, awesome. Sorry. Alrighty. So first, I just want to go over a little quick agenda with you guys. Again, my name is Kristen, and I want to show our student Jane a few quick tips about using Pinterest. We're going to go over a little bit about what Pinterest is. I'd like to find out how you guys in the audience are currently using Pinterest, if you are. We're going to sign up or sign in to Pinterest and do a few activities. I'll tell you why it's important to create a professional Pinterest account, some best practices, and most importantly, how to pin your blog and find some other bloggers. So let's get started. A quick overview of Pinterest. Pinterest is a social media tool. It's a visual discovery tool, and most importantly, it's a really, really great way to share your blog. The key word is visual. So just like Tian was talking about your visuals that you use on your blog, I think that Pinterest is an ideal place to be where those visuals are really going to come in handy. Because that's the first thing people are going to see. So a quick discussion question, is anybody out there currently using Pinterest? And when you do use it, how are you using it? Is it more of a personal account, or have you ever thought about using it or used it as a professional account? And again, how often do you use it? I use Pinterest all the time, so I'm on it almost every single day. And if you're following along on the handout as well, I'm on page 4, and Pinterest is in section 4. Or the section 4 of the handout. So I'm in section 4.1. So lots of people are telling me that they use it personally. So I think that that's the most common use for it, to look for recipes, dinner ideas. So yeah, a lot of personal, private accounts, things like that. And of course for fun. So Rebecca said she uses it for fun. I use it for fun too. So I really love it. Of course, recipes. I think that's probably the most common thing that I hear all the time. But Erin actually shared that a friend of hers uses it to promote her Etsy account. So that's really cool. Alrighty. So now we're going to talk a little bit about creating an account with Pinterest. Whoops. So Pinterest is a super easy account to sign up for. You really only need an email address and to create a password. So I use 2 different email accounts to create 2 different Pinterest accounts. So I have my personal one, and then I have one that I consider a professional account. And so what I'd like to do now is I'm actually going to come out of the PowerPoint, and I've got my Pinterest account pulled up over here. And so basically what we see when we first sign into Pinterest, and if you don't have an account, I wouldn't really worry about it. We're going to still walk through this together. So if it's handy and you can sign in, that's great. And if not, we can just follow along on my screen. So when you first sign into your Pinterest account, you're going to see on your homepage all of these pins. And basically what you're seeing here is pins that either were shared by people that you follow or you're friends with. But there's also really great suggestions here based on other pins that you've already shared. So Pinterest will actually make suggestions to you. So now what I'd like to do is a quick activity and send you, so if you've got your Pinterest account up, if you want to go on a scavenger hunt with me, I'm going to search for promote your blog. And so let's take a look and see what we get in the results when we click on or when we search for promote your blog. So promoting your blog is very popular. There's a lot of results here for promoting your blog, all different ways. If there's anything that jumps out at you right away, let me know in the chat. This one actually stands out to me right away here. I'm gonna minimize my screen a little bit, and that way I can take a look at the chat as well. So I was actually gonna click on this pin right here. Promote your latest blog post, 20 places to promote your latest blog post. And I really want to point out something important here. When you first look at a pin, what you're actually seeing is what somebody else pinned. And so you're not seeing necessarily the original pin. And I think that that's really important because if I look here, I see that this pin was actually shared by somebody named Bill. And he's not really the author of this post here. And so the whole reason why we would like to pin our blog on Pinterest is to drive people to our blog and to the original post. And so I think it's important to do the same for other bloggers. So I'm going to click on this and pull up this person's blog. So I see this is a blog called Eat, Sleep, Blog, Repeat. 20 places to promote your latest blog post. There's our blogger. And so I think it's very important here to pin right from this person's blog, because that's what I hope that people are going to do when they go to my blog. So I think it's important to have people, to do the same thing for other bloggers. Alrighty. So if I want to pin this, so this person here has a great pin it button right here. I made sure when I set up my blog to put pin it buttons on all of my blogs, or also tweet, things like that. So make sure that it's very easy to share on social media like Tian talked about. So I'm going to click here, pin it, and my boards come up. And so I can choose my board. I have a board about blogging, and I'm going to go ahead and pin it right from here. So now it's your turn. So if you did find anything interesting that stood out to you on your scavenger hunt, go ahead and try pinning it. I'm on page 5 in the handout if you're following along. And if you have any other questions too, like in more detail about how to sign up for Pinterest, you can always ask questions too at the end in the Q&A. Alrighty.
I loved your professional account, Kristen. Like, you had all those boards. They were such good ideas.
Thank you. That's actually one of the things I'm going to talk about as one of our best practices is to create a professional account. So I'm actually going to jump over if anybody has any other questions or want to share what they pinned. So Erin says, these blogs are so beautiful. And I know. So I think that it's awesome. This is a really great way to find other blogs. I mean, this is where I was brand new to blogging, and this is where I have found some amazing blogs just to get great ideas. Alrighty. So I'm going to come back over to our PowerPoint and continue on. So this is my first best practice, and that is to create a professional account. I think that creating a professional account allows you to find and pin content that's related to, your graduate program. And if we're, so that would be my first piece of advice to Jane, our student, is to, if you create a professional account, it is an amazing way to organize all of that content, all of those readings, and all of those things that you're going to find online that are going to be so helpful for you later on. So speaking from personal experience, I found that I had a lot of readings that were being done online, and I really didn't know where to keep them. And so I started pinning them, and that's how I ended up creating this whole separate account. And I found so much helpful information, not just for our program, but for work as well. And it also allows me to keep all of that personal stuff, so my pie recipes and ideas and things like that, in a separate place. So another piece of advice is Pinterest does allow you to create a business account. I'm not going to go into too much about a business account at this time, but there is some information and a link to it in our handout. And again, I'm still in section 4 and page 5 of our handout.
And Kristen, Linda has commented that she never thought about it for using blogs or using it to find e-learning designs.
Yes.
A revelation.
I know. There's so many there's so many amazing infographics about e-learning and online learning, and even just I have a friend who's a kindergarten teacher. She uses it all the time for her job. So another best practice is to find your tribe. So I think that Pinterest is an amazing place to find other students in the program, to find other people that are interested in the same things you are. So if you remember when we first opened up Pinterest and we were looking at that homepage is literally filled with people that could potentially be in your tribe. So this is a really great thing for our student Jane, is to find other people that are doing the same thing she is or interested in the same thing she is. Pinterest allows you to, if you find another board or another pinner that is interested in the same things you are, you can easily find them and follow them. So just like that person who shared the same pin that I did, I could easily just follow him. And I noticed that once you start following people, people start to follow you back because they're getting the same pins and things like that in their home feed as you are. One of my favorite features of Pinterest is the send button. So once you start finding your tribe, you can then start sending pins to them. And it's so easy. You can just immediately find something interesting and I could send it to them. We don't even have to know each other necessarily. And I really like that. We just have shared interests. And I just think it's a great way to build your tribe. So my last best practice is to definitely pin your own blog posts. So the same way that I pinned that 20 ways to promote your blog, I also do that for my own blog. So I do it the exact same way. So when I finish writing a blog post, I use my own pin it button and I pin it right to my professional account. And I have a board called My Blog Posts. And I just immediately share it. And then that way, so the people that I'm interacting with on Pinterest, it's showing up in their home feed. And then ideally, they'll share it as well. And more people will hopefully visit my blog. So, of course, you can also pin, or you can also tweet what you pin. So it does have a tweet button on Pinterest. So when I pin it, then there's another option to take it another step and either tweet that pin or share it on Facebook. Pinterest also allows you to create a shortened link, which is really helpful on Twitter. And so, speaking of Twitter, Emily is about to talk to you about how to share your blog on Twitter. And if you'd like any other resources on Pinterest, they are on page 7 in your handout, and again in section 4 of the handout. All right, so I am going to stop the share and go ahead and hand it over to Emily.
All right, well, thank you, Kristen. And actually, so Lisa's going to drive for me. I don't have PowerPoint on my Mac at home, so she's going to walk through the slides for us as we get through. So as Kristen mentioned, my name is Emily, and I am going to talk us through some best practices using Twitter to promote your blog. And this can be referred to on pages 7 through 9, section 5 in your handout. And just to quickly kind of walk through what we're going to go over today, based on our initial poll results that we sent out, what seems like might have been a month ago now, a lot of you seem to be like Jane. You likely have a blog, or you're thinking about starting a blog, and you might dabble a little bit in social media as well, but you're really looking for some help into how to best promote your content and show the internet that you really know your stuff and that you're worthy of being promoted and being an influence online. So we'll get things kicked off right away with a group activity to kind of get you all thinking about your current perceptions of what Twitter is to you now and how that they might transform as we progress with our time together. Then we're going to discuss as a group again why all this is important, followed by some very basic but what I think are pretty powerful best practices for maximizing your blog reach and influence on Twitter. And then we'll close out this section with another group activity that will help you and our student Jane put it all together. And of course, for detailed information and instructions on all of our activities that we'll be going over today, you can refer to the handout in the chat box, pages 8 and 9, sections 5.1, 5.2, and 5.3. All right, so let's just jump right in here for our first activity, which again is outlined on page 8 in the handout. I am going to attempt to divide you guys up into some breakout rooms in our Zoom tool here. I think I have groups of
17 participants.
with the exception of one. So there's going to be one group of 3. But while you're in the Zoom room, I'm going to give you about a minute. And what I'd like for you to do is just quickly introduce yourself to your partner or partners and say what comes to mind. What do you think of when you hear the word Twitter, or when you think of just Twitter in general? And then what we'll do is we'll come back into the main room, and time permitting, I'd love to go around the room and have everybody, either share via microphone or chat box your partner's name and their response. So with that, I have everyone sectioned off here. So I'm going to go ahead and start the breakout room. But actually, before, is everybody good? Thumbs up. Feeling good? Awesome. All right. So I will see you guys back in the room in about a minute.
Hopefully.
Yes. I kept us in here.
And Emily, so that you know, as you start adding them to breakout rooms, the participant list does start going down. So it looks like they are loaded into their breakout sessions.
Awesome. Yep, it looks like it's just the 4 of us in here.
Nice.
So it's some nice weather we're having.
We're being recorded.
Wait.
Oh, some comic relief.
They should be about at time when they're receiving their 30-second panic button.
All right, I just
That's right.
Here they come.
We got Jamie back. How'd we get just one back? Jamie, did you ditch your teammates? There they are.
All right. Is everybody back?
Emily, you have everyone back, and Erin commented that that was cool.
Awesome. Well, welcome back, everyone. I hope that was fun. I'm glad that I successfully executed that. Does anybody want to share? We could do a couple responses. I got the chat open, but if you want to unmute your mic, I'll open it up.
Kendra commented that that was interesting. That was the first time she had used the breakout room. And we were commenting, we were left outside the breakout rooms, and we were commenting and wondering if you guys were all panicked when it said 30 seconds left. And you spoke 5,000 miles an hour. Linda's commenting that Louisa and herself have only used Twitter once or twice. And Rebecca did comment that they were getting a little panicked.
If they've only used it once or twice, they can tweet with you, Lisa. We can make sure that they all follow you.
Their short and sweet sharing of ideas and information that came from Justin and Joanna.
That was Joni.
Joni. And I agree with Ryan. Social media overload.
Yeah,
I would
They
like
will
to
convert
point
you,
out,
Ryan. Be careful.
I would like to point out that Lisa's Twitter handle is on the last page of our handout. So
Yes.
anyone who wants to follow her, please do.
You can follow her.
All right. Well, cool. So we'll keep it moving. It seems like there is a nice variety of folks in the room. Some who have a Twitter account, don't really use it. Some people don't ever use it. Some people, find it great for sharing information and ideas. None of us had Twitter accounts until we needed it for Joni's class. So Joni, thank you for getting everyone up on Twitter. So now we can use it to promote your blog. And that's what we'll get into next. So this slide here is just a very high-level overview of what Twitter is and some facts and figures, which are included in your handout on page 7, section 5.0. And so I'm not going to read through all of these facts and figures, but I did want to get them in front of you so you have them in the back of your mind as we move forward. And I think basically, net is that, as you can see, 250 plus million active users. There's a lot of people hanging out on Twitter. So, why not use it as an opportunity to promote yourself and all the great work that you're producing in this program and hopefully beyond. So with that, we will get into our second activity. I'm keeping you guys busy today, but since I'm the last one presenting, I want to make sure everyone's still awake. So this again is outlined page 8 in your handout, and we're going to talk a little bit about why this is important. And so for me personally, I think Twitter is an ideal social network to promote your blog because it, as Joni and Ryan, or maybe it wasn't Ryan, they mentioned that, it's a great resource to have information. And it's true. It's the pulse of what's happening on the web right now. And so I think this means for me, it's a great way to get all your content in front of millions of eyes, and to grow your social network that way. So having a presence on Twitter, I've highlighted here, it not only expands the reach of your blog audience, it demonstrates your influence as an industry thought leader, and it can help build relationships with people beyond the walls of your zip code. And in our industry, instructional design, e-learning, we're online, like that's where our place is. So it's really, really important to have that community, online as well as the physical space. So with that, I wanted to open it up, since there are some pros in the room and maybe some people, who are just starting to dabble, but they have some ideas. I wanted to open it up and ask you to share some answers in the chat box on why you think that Twitter might be important for maybe you personally, your blog. I'll give it just about 30 seconds here.
So Emily, are you able to see the chat functions? Aaron's commented that it's the new main social media. It's taking over Facebook. Kristen commented it's easy to use, and Ryan says it reaches a different audience.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing with the Facebook comment, it is definitely, it's a completely different community. I think people, especially nowadays, use Facebook on more of a personal social network, to put all your fun pictures of your puppies and cats or whatever up on Facebook. But Twitter, I think, is really used more to get, that your blog's out there, what's happening in the news, the latest whatever's going on right now in the world. So Joni said, if you've done your work that is of value to other educators, designers, and then it's important to share widely. And that's absolutely true. There's a lot of people on the network. It's good to get out there and network as well.
And Haley brings up a great point, Emily. She says it forces you to be concise, which is why I have such a hard time.
It's true. I for those of you who don't know, I work in social media, and this was something that was very challenging for me at first. I didn't have a Twitter account before I started this job, so being able to condense your message into a very limited space is challenging for sure.
And Kristen brings up that it seems like news travels so much faster on Twitter.
Yes, absolutely. All right, well, let's keep it moving. We'll get into just a couple of best practices for maximizing your blog reach on Twitter. And so this slide here is just a very basic profile setup. And I wanted to start here because I think before you start tweeting, you want to make sure that your profile looks professional and you're set up correctly, whether you've been on Twitter for 5 years or you are just starting out. And so five things here. You want to use a professional looking photo, and same with your username or your handle. You want to customize it to best represent you and your personal brand. You definitely want to include a bio, and so Twitter gives you 160 characters to complete your bio, and I recommend using that as an opportunity to insert specific keywords or hashtags that you want people to find you. So for instance, I'm a grad student, so I have that first. I've hashtagged instructional design, photography, and social media because that's what I want people to know me for. And so I think it's great to be able to, you look credible and you're optimal for search in that regard. I recommend adding your location, and the reason why some people might be a little weird about this, but as I mentioned, I work in social media, and we promote other people's content all the time. Or at events, we're promoting speakers, and there's a lot of legwork that goes on in the beginning trying to find those people's handles, and so we can kind of have them as a quick reference. And I can't tell you how many times I go to look for somebody with a common name, and there's like 25 results, and I have no idea who the right person is. But having this stuff filled in makes me know right away that that's the person that I'm looking for, and I can give them the credit where credit's due. And then include your link to your blog. So any possible way you can link your blog back or you can link back to your blog on any of your social networks. If you've taken Joni's social media class, she talks about that in there. But it's just a really great way for people to go and learn more about you and see the content and all the projects, your portfolio that you're working on beyond what you're promoting on Twitter. And so the next slide is actually just getting into writing tweets. And so again, I mentioned, so Twitter gives you a very limited amount of characters, 140 to be exact. I recommend keeping your tweets between 120 and 130 characters. This will give you a little bit of wiggle room to add an image to your tweets, which we'll get into next, and leave some room for engagements, which I've included some. We're not going to cover in this session, but I've included some resources on engaging on Twitter in the resource section of your handout. You want to make sure that you're including hashtags in your tweets. Actually, wait, let me just pause. I just wanted to jump back real quick. So to actually physically write tweet, you want to try to break your blog into smaller snackable chunks that your audience can quickly understand and digest. And so anything like a compelling stat, a quote, a fun fact, all of those things tend to pick up a little bit better on Twitter. But if you don't really have any of that information in your blog content, it's totally fine to use the title of your blog in your tweet, as long as it's, relevant to what the blog is, and hopefully it is. So now let's move into hashtags. And so essentially, hashtags are a way for tweeters to join conversations and sort content. And I don't know about you, but when I first started my job, I actually had no idea how a hashtag worked or really what it was. And I think that there's a common misconception out there that more hashtags are better, but it's actually quite the opposite. A best practice here is use no more than 2 hashtags in your tweets. That will grant you the highest engagement. And really any tweets with more than 3 hashtags tend to come across unprofessional, maybe a little spammy, and it will decrease your engagement. So if you aren't really sure what hashtag you should be using, you can easily search the hashtag on Twitter before you send your tweet out to see, if that hashtag is being used a lot. So for instance, if you go out there and you search a hashtag and you see one person used it in like April 2012, then your tweet isn't going to reach anybody beyond the amount of followers that you have. So for instance, if Lisa, not to pick on you, Lisa, but if you tweeted out something with a hashtag that no one used, only 3 of your followers might see that message. So it's good to kind of get in the practice of researching and seeing, what's out there so you can broaden your reach. Do we have questions here? I'll pause. I see the chat blowing up.
Well, they were just wondering if we will be sending out the recording of the webinar, and we will for sure.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Cool. Just wanted to make sure that we were good. All right, so we'll keep it moving. Another best practice that I have on here is to use images. And so Tian and Kristen both touched on this. As we know, as instructional designers, as e-learning specialists, vision is king. So you really want to use that as an opportunity to grab your audience's attention right away, especially since, there's so many people on Twitter and so many tweets, Kristen, as you mentioned, going out all the time. And so a best practice here, when using an image, you want to make sure that it's the right size, because Twitter does not auto format sizes. So if it's too small or too big, or even if it's square, it might not show up as effective in the stream. A good rule of thumb is to use a rectangular image. For anybody who wants to take that a step further and maybe design their own image or play around with resizing, I included a social media image size guide in the resource section, and actually it's for all the social media networks, not just Twitter. So note that that's there for your reference. And then finally, I recommend saving characters by shortening the URL. And so, as I mentioned, we have such a limited amount of space. So if you shorten that URL, then you have more opportunity to write content in there that you want people to actually read instead of wasting it on the URL. Additionally, I think most URL shorteners allow you to track clicks. And so this allows you to see which posts are resonating best with your audience, and therefore kind of give you some great insight to what you post moving forward, and hopefully increase the chances of your audience clicking more in the future. And so I included a couple popular URL shorteners down below. I personally use Owly. I have a Hootsuite account, so I can go in there and look at my clicks. But I've also included a link to some other URL shorteners in the resource section of your handout. And so with that, I think this brings us to our last activity. And so we're going to put it all together. And so I'm going to share my screen. And I got that up. And so I'm going to first demonstrate promoting my blog. This is a blog from our class earlier in the semester, using the best practices that we just went over. And then I would love to, for you or one of you, whoever wants to try to take a stab at it and write the tweet either in the chat box or actually go out to Twitter and promote it on Twitter. The one caveat with using the chat is that you're not going to be able to count your characters or attach an image, but it'll at least get you into a good practice writing the tweet using hashtags and shortening the URL. So, whoops, I didn't want to do that. So before we do that, I'm just going to copy this and put it in the chat box so you have it. So see, I'm getting everyone to promote my blog. So first what I would do here, I would look through, and I don't really have any compelling stats or fun facts in this blog. So for the purposes of this example, I'm going to use the title. But what I'm going to do first, since I already copied my Owly or my long URL, is I'm going to navigate over to Owly. And I think you can use this without actually signing into Twitter. You might not be able to count your clicks that way, but I'm signed in, but you might not need to be at this point. And I'm just going to copy the link and shrink it and tell Owly I'm not a robot. And boom, now I have my URL. So I'm just going to copy that and head over to Twitter. And you can do this in any order, obviously. I just like to get my my shortened URL in there so I kind of know what I'm working with in terms of character limits. So like I said, I'm just going to use the title of my blog. So I'm just going to copy and paste it. And so I did a little homework ahead of time, and I did see that learning strategies is a hashtag that's being used out there pretty frequently. So I'm just going to turn those two words into my hashtag. And this is another great way to save characters. Instead of adding, learning strategies at the end, you can go ahead and use a hashtag, a word that's already part of the sentence or part of the tweet. And then I also want to include my e-learning audience. So I'm going to add e-learning at the end. And to add my image, I already have one selected. Oh, that doesn't look good. Let me try that again. There we go. And so I have 19 characters left, which is great. I kept it in between that 120, 130 limit. And so this is a great opportunity if somebody, wanted to retweet and say, like, check out this blog or add my handle at the end, they can do that. And I know now Twitter allows you to quote tweets, so it kind of frees up some space, but I still try to keep my tweets below the limit. So then I would just tweet that out. And so we'll see. My internet, get the circle of death here. So I will then pause for a moment, and if anybody wants to go out there and give it a try, go for it, or you can put it in the chat. And if you are tweeting, you could add our class hashtag, which I'll put in the chat right now so we can all see it. 5670. I think that's it. Looks like Tian is tweeting about our Zoom room.
I am. That was my tweet for our webinar.
Must tweet.
Okay, Emily, it looks like we can close that chat down.
Okay. All right. Well, that was all I had for today. Again, I encourage everyone to check out the resource section on page 9 in the handout. I've included a lot of other tidbits and tricks around Twitter beyond what we covered today, like gaining followers, engagement strategies, and other ways to use Twitter to promote your blog. So I hope that you all check that out. And with that, I am going to hand it back over to Lisa. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen to wrap everything up.
All right. Well, we appreciate all of your time. Tian has put together the webinar survey in the chat function. Please take a moment to take that at the end of the session, because there is a special treat after completion. So make sure that you complete that webinar survey for the extra special treat. We wanted to wrap it up. In case you didn't notice, I am not the tweeter. I'm a semi-blogger, and I use Pinterest for simply my recipes, which keeps the lab in the background very happy. But we're here to tell you that Jane learned through all of our SMEs here today, Emily and Tian and Kristen, that she had much more comments on her latest blog post. And she had over 200 people that pinned her photo. What? And 34 people liked the tweet about my last post. So we hope that you gained some knowledge in our session today. Again, we appreciate your feedback on that survey, so take a moment to do that. And with that, we'll open up the chat for any question and answers. We are respectful of your time, but on behalf of Emily, Tian, and Kristen, and myself, thank you again for joining us. And we're happy to take any questions and answers that you have. So have a good evening. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you learned something fun and new. Go tweet.
And blog.
And pin.
And pin.
And have fun.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you,
guys.
everybody.
Don't forget, Tian, if you'll put that survey back into the
Yep.
chat, don't
There
forget
it
to
is.
take that chat. Special prize for those that complete the chat. I mean, sorry, the feedback. Our contact information is also on the last page of your handout. We're happy to answer any questions that you have at any time, even after the session is over, and we will be posting the recording of the session on Canvas. For those of you who are not on Canvas, if you'll provide your email address, we're happy to email you that link to the recording. Our moderators are standing by for any questions that you have.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Yes, thank you.
This was really fun.